Welcome back, folks, to the Mail Right Show. This is episode 214. I've been looking forward to this discussion. We've got Tonya and Michael from Brandcaster with us. We're going to be talking about why in 2019, if you want to be a successful real estate agent, building a personal brand is your main objective. And I've got also my great co-host, Robert Newman. Tonya, would you like, and Michael, would you like to give a very quick introduction about yourselves and Brandcaster?
Sure. So BrandFace started about 6 years ago, and I actually started learning about personal branding myself through selling vacuum cleaners door to door. I did that to pay my way through college. And that's when I learned the power of presenting your story and presenting yourself in a way that would get people to open the door. And so from there, I landed a job at a radio station when I sold a vacuum cleaner to a radio station engineer. And I spent about 18 years in the media world as on the sales side of things. And I learned a couple of different things. I would see business owners walk into an event and they would be kind of like rock stars. And I thought, my goodness, what are those people doing? And it was almost always someone who was the face and the voice of their own business. They were on their radio commercials and their print ads and their TV ads, and they became local celebrities. And they were really working to push forward their personal brand and connect that to the business so people would understand that they were doing business with a person, not a logo, as we like to say. So that's how I kind of got into personal branding, and it just became a common thread through everything I did. And about 6 years ago, I started writing the first BrandFace book and in the series, and then I met this guy, and I'll let him pick it up from here.
Well, let's keep it at that. I want to introduce Robert first, and then we can go into that. Robert, would you like to quickly introduce yourself to the new listeners and viewers?
Yeah, well, I am the founder of Inbound REM, which is a real estate inbound marketing company, really one of the few. And for those of you who are not watching, I look like Pepe Le Pew. I just got my hair done, so I strongly recommend that you check out the YouTube video. And other than that, John can take it.
All right. So with Michael's agreement, I like to go into the nitty gritty of the interview, Tonya, both of you. So in 2019, I believe in your core message that if you're going to be a successful real estate agent and compete with all the online competitors and everything that's going on in the industry, you've got to build a really fantastic local personal brand. Easy to say, what are some of the key things that you think that agents got to be aware of to be able to achieve that objective?
Yeah, you want to take this one? Or you want me?
So there's three things that BrandFace does. Tonya taught this to me in the real estate business. It's how we met, and there's three things that BrandFace does for all entrepreneurs, and we started it with real estate agents because of me. We develop and display a good personal brand, and those are the three keys that we stick to begin to differentiate somebody, because we realized, she realized actually when she wrote the book, the importance of that differentiation. So, if we wanted to get it down to the three things that we do, we define what their personal brand is going to be. We help them develop that personal brand and everything that will encompass that. And then we help them display that equally across all of their platforms.
Right. Over to you, Robert.
So when you say differentiate, what I hear as a guy that's read a lot of marketing books is a unique selling proposition. Is that basically the equivalent? Like you're figuring out what they have that they can sell.
The hook. Yep.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Just in case some of the people that are listening to the show may not understand, do you have a couple of examples that you could toss out that might be a differentiator
Oh yeah, absolutely. So we have, I'll just talk about this lady, this awesome lady that's in our program in Texarkana. Her name's Jacqueline. And Jacqueline came to us and she wanted to focus on people who were more upscale in her area, but were also making a life change and purchasing a home potentially the second time around. So in other words, it was almost like life the second time around. They were middle-aged, they were making a life change, maybe a transition into downsizing, or professionally climbing that ladder, moving into a bigger home, but they were more on the luxury end of things. And so we were looking for what we call that brand identifier, that marketing hook that Michael said, that just kind of kicks open the door. And that would be like a tagline or a slogan. In other words, we call it a brand identifier. So Jacqueline's brand identifier is real estate refined. And what that really instantly means to people is that is a refined approach for people who want the finer things in life, more upscale, more luxury type of approach. And of course, then we build that brand around that point of differentiation. So everything about why her tagline is real estate refined and what that looks like is built into the brand. That's where we get into the development phase. Everything from photos of her to her imagery, to her logo, to how her brand is, the brand message comes across, how she communicates, why she is known for being real estate refined. So that is just one example of many that that's kind of where we start, is that brand identifier, because that gives us the foundation and then we build around that person.
Okay, I got you. So using like ancient marketing school language that I fucking hate, by the way, but it's what that people cue into that have actually taken a class. So it's a marketing persona is what you identified, then you connect it to a USP, which is brilliant. I love it. And then you help that client. So the last part, if I'm understanding your services, so you help them identify the marketing persona, who is their customer, and then what is your unique selling proposition, right?
Yep.
And then the last bit, if I understood you correctly, is now that you have those first two bits figured out, the third bit would be, how do you use that information? Is that
yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Pretty much the same.
Yep.
Yeah. And that third bit is display. Now we've got, look, so in the first phase is define. We've got who their ideal customers are, what their point of differentiation is, what makes them different from all the other agents. And then that brand identifier that kind of gives us the form to go with. In the second phase, we're developing everything about what that looks like, feels like, and sounds like. And in the third phase, we pull it all together with graphic design, with messaging, and then we make sure that new brand is displayed correctly and consistently across all of their marketing platforms.
Can you give me a couple of examples off your past clients? Like, when you're saying marketing platforms for real estate, there's a surprisingly large quantity that you could theoretically be talking about. Would you mind sharing with me a couple that you find are common amongst your?
Well, you're hitting on the point right there.
Exactly.
That I think that she brought to me originally. We all of us real estate agents, we've got the same platforms, right? We got Zillow, we got Realtors, we got, the MLSs, we've got our door hangers, we've got our billboards, we've got our park benches, we've got our shopping carts. Like, everybody's got that, right? And the problem with it is, and we get our clients all the time tell us this. They're like, hey, marketing doesn't work. Marketing doesn't work. The marketing, I'm spending money, I'm not making money. The marketing doesn't work. The marketing doesn't work. And so much of it, as y'all know, is right here, right? And then right here, whether or not, number one, you should be in that industry. And number two, do you love that industry? And are you working that industry correctly? So once that's right here, and they love the idea of real estate and all the good and bad that comes with it, then what we do is show them that differentiation. So they're not using all those same platforms that all of us know about, because there's no real secret. In fact, we've got one of our blogs that are out is this, the unsecret, right? Because there's no magic formula that's going to bring in all these leads that just turn into millions of dollars without any of the legwork or the mining or all that. So BrandFace doesn't take that away, but what BrandFace does is it gives you that step up. So now when you do show up on all those displays, you're showing up much different than other people are showing up. And it's more than just a picture, right? Because it might be easy to digress it down to say, oh, well, anybody can take a good picture. Any of us that have been in the business for a long time, we know what glamour shots look like. Glamour shots made billions of dollars off of real estate agents, right? And did it make a difference? Yeah, a little bit here, a little bit there. But it's BrandFace brings in the mindset of all of that, right? So you can't use a different picture on your shopping carts that you do on your park bench that you do in your Zillow. And so many agents do that. There's not any consistency to it. And it really boils down to the same as no consistency. If you go out, we have agents tell us, oh, I sent out 10,000 postcards and nobody called me, and we're like, well, you would have been better off to have sent 1,000 people 10 postcards, right? Because that's really more the marketing mindset, the repetition of. But in our sophisticated world we live in nowadays, there's so much more to it than that. Everybody are checking us out. They're checking out our social medias. They're checking out our Twitter feeds. They're checking out our LinkedIn. They're checking out our websites. They're reading through the websites. They're doing as much research on the real estate agent as they are the houses they're going to look for. And that's a statistic that NAR has been screaming for 20 years, right? As we've seen the internet grow and grow and grow and grow and grow. But it just seems like there's this big lag behind the messaging, right? And our thought process is people need to be, you need to be attacking your ideal customer, right? Media in the internet world is a great way to do that. But then when they get there, you got to have a consistent message, and you also got to tell them how you're going to be able to help them. And you got to catch them pretty quick because there's so many shiny things that are going to steal their attention.
To follow through Robert's question, especially in large city metropolitan areas like the Bay Area, out of Boston, Dallas, when you're in a very large metropolitan, I think, I'm not sure this word exists, but I created it. You need to nicheify. You need to find your niche. Do you get a lot of resistance when clients first approach you about actually zeroing in on a particular target audience?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
in a word, yes.
Almost always.
Yeah, almost always. But what we tell them is if you try to help everyone, you'll just help yourself right out of business. So you've got to figure out who those ideal customers are. Think about it this way. When you start to market yourself, no matter what platform you're on, you start to put a message out there that is designed to attract someone. How do you know what message to put out there unless you first know who it is you're trying to attract? And as we used to say in radio, people used to say, well, I want to target, our listeners are age 25 to 54. I want to target age 25 to 54. And I would say that's not a target audience. That's a family reunion. And so there's nothing that a 25-year-old has in common with a 54-year-old. Very little, right? So your messaging would be different to those people. The image you're trying to portray that's going to attract those people can be quite different. It isn't always, but it can be. And, back to Robert's question of the marketing platforms, I want to get across one thing really clearly is that, your brand is what you market. The marketing platforms, vehicles, tools, systems, whatever, that's the vehicle you market your message with. But your brand is your message and your image that you market on those platforms. So what BrandFace does is we give them that whole image and message and every single puzzle piece they need to market themselves on any platform, free or paid. So it could be organic posting on Facebook versus, Zillow or any other lead generation platform out there. Learning how to use lead generation platforms can be done in about 30 minutes. There's so many different ones. It's a matter of how you use that platform, not which one you use.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Just a quick follow-through question before we go for our break. Obviously, in large metropolitan areas, like I say, I think finding that niche, but what would be your message to the individual that's in a 50 to 250,000 population area, town, small city? They would say there just isn't enough volume out there to nicheify. What would be your message there?
So if I understand the question, you're saying like, if the metropolitan area, if it's not,
well, if they're based in a small town, city,
yeah, that's
between
a good
50 to 200.
Yes, sir. Caught up with you. Yeah. Well, you can brand yourself for different things. Like it doesn't have to be, it's personal branding no matter what it is. That's very important, right? It's facial recognition and it's learning who you are and messaging being correct towards your ideal customer. You can still niche in small towns. For instance, the town that I live in is only 10,000 people. Like we're 40 minutes north of Atlanta. So I've got the whole metropolitan area covered with agents and two other offices that span the entire northern part of the arc of Atlanta, and we cover probably 12 different counties. But we inside my own small town, I can still use my identifier, right? And so my identifier was that I'm America's top selling real estate auctioneer. No personal broker has sold more real estate residentially than I have, because of my experience through the 2006, 2013 debacle. And we survived that and came out. And then when Tonya came to me, my brokerage had anything real estate, which is very prominent in the small town that we're in because of the way that we market. So when we come to niche, you're right. It's hard to pick a niche that says, okay, I'm only going to deal with first-time home buyers. In my particular area, that would never work because we don't have enough of them, right? So anything real estate, though, obviously, absolutely covers that. And the reason it's not such a broad thing like a niche is because when you go to our website, our messaging describes the fact that we deal with investors, we deal with rental property, and we deal with brokerage, regular arm's length brokerages.
So what you're really saying, it's just a little bit broader, the target then of high population,
yes,
metropolitan area.
And too, Jonathan, I want people to understand that your niche doesn't always have to be your ideal customer. They're two different things a lot of times. So your niche could be what you want to be known for. You could be known for your responsiveness. You could be known for the fact that you embrace, understand, and can sell the lifestyle of that area like nobody else. It could be that you understand waterfront properties. It could be it could be that negotiations like the back of your hand. You get people to the closing table on time or even faster, right? So I just mentioned 5 different possibilities for niches there, and it just depends on what you find when you drill down into it as to where is your strength. Your niche isn't always defined by a geographic area or your ideal customer, although it can be. Very often it is defined by your attributes or your experience or your expertise.
That's great. We're going to go for our break. When we're coming back, we're going to be delving in this very important area of personal brand building in 2019. We'll be back in a few moments, folks. We're coming back. We've had a great discussion with Tonya and Michael about personal branding. I think it's going to be a great second half. Over to my co-host, Robert.
So I wanted to tag on to 2 things that you said in the previous part of the show, the last 5 minutes. I'm not a big interrupter. I don't like to jump in, but I did want to say that you made a blanket statement, which I thought was a little inaccurate about lead generation platforms. You said they take 30 minutes. My experience as a person that uses many of them is that oftentimes they can take more like 30 hours to learn how to use.
It was a bit of an exaggeration for sure. But the point I was trying to make is that it's not so much which ones you use, because as long as your ideal customer is on the other side of that lead generation tool, then it should work for you. Sure. What really is the determining factor as to whether or not it works is what message you put out there on it.
I don't disagree with that. I just wanted to make that comment because I kind of stubbed my foot here. I should have given you guys a better introduction into the show. I was slightly distracted, which John is used to.
Distracted, Robert? Never, Robert.
But the way that my reputation is by really digging deep and giving huge, deep analysis into real estate lead generation like services, and that's like my website gets about 200,000-300,000 visitors in the real estate space per year, and it's all focused on people that want in-depth answers. That's why I felt like I had to respond, because that's my bailiwick and you made a comment on it. But I agree with everything else you said.
Perfectly fair.
The other thing that I wanted to say is I love the conversation, but and you covered it, but I did want to add my own 2 cents, which when it comes to niches, personal history should and could play a huge piece of what your niche is. Like, I ran call centers for 20 years. I haven't done it in a long time. I'm a tech guy now, but I absolutely have that conversation with all my real estate clients that want to talk to me about ISAs. I still have 2 decades of experience in terms of call center stuff. And I know that world like the back of my hand, like working with the Philippines and all that different stuff. In real estate, I've found that, like, people that were in the military, that's a huge thing that should never be discarded. Like, you should always focus on that. If you're in the military or have been in the military, for God's sake, include that as part of your personal brand.
Absolutely.
I agree.
You're nailing it, Robert. Like, you are so speaking our language, because there are some agents who come to us brand new. A lot, you know, they've been in the business. They run the gamut from brand new to 35 plus years in the real estate business, but they all come with this rich history. We have several agents in the program, believe it or not, that have a nursing background. Mm-hmm. And we had 2 recently that have a background in assisted living communities. We've had them that have a background, many that have a background in the military. We have a gentleman in Virginia who is known as our American Dream agent. And he really focuses on, his background is military, and he focuses on helping people realize the American Dream is that beautiful double entendre, because he spent his whole life defending the American Dream.
Sure.
And now he's helping people to realize that. So using that rich history, you nailed it.
One of my favorites, and I'm going to be transparent with everybody in the show, I'm going to use this to maneuver into one of my favorite topics in 2018, 2019, and now 2020. And John probably can guess what it's going to be, but it's going to be a question. But I love teachers, and one of the reasons I love teachers is I get to drop this particular tip, which is, if you can teach, you can be wildly successful in online marketing. That's my general opinion. But I leverage video, and I'm kind of curious, like, I leverage it heavily in my own business, heavily. And I'm curious to know if the both of you have an opinion about video in the pantheon of these branding strategies that you're promoting.
Yeah, we're video heavy. Like, we love video. We teach it all the time because she taught it to me. I come along and realize, you know, we realize a lot of things we need and we don't prioritize it correctly. And I had not done that in the video realm. And she brought it to me about how important it is, and it continues to grow. I think it's bar none the number one way. Because people are interested in how you look and how you talk and those nuances that they pick up on shows just like this. It's important to them because now they know what they're going to be dealing with before they ever pick up the phone. Yeah,
I call it a virtual handshake, and in my experience, which is a little different than your guys, because I'm on the real meat grinder side where I track down to the minutest thing, the actual lead registration part on websites. Websites that have that video introduction, especially a personal one like us sitting here talking to each other, has a deep impact on lead conversion. A deep,
does.
Like 300-400% better conversion if you have a personal video, like talking about an area or giving a personal mission statement, which is what I have on my homepage of my website, which is just, what are you about? Because people don't know that when they are, like, text does not communicate that, in my opinion, anymore.
Great.
Our expectation as a world, as consumers, is that we're going to get that video, that we want more. And I think that video is a great way to deliver more, is my thought.
I think somebody's trying to get hold of you, Robert. Maybe you should switch it off. I've got a follow-through question. A lot of agents, obviously, they join a brokerage, and, you know, I'm not anti-brokerage. It's a partnership. I want to make that clear. But then they have to use the brokerage tools, and they have to pay a fee, and they get a brokerage website. But I think it's a real problem because they really need their own website and their own other branding, their own Facebook, their own social media, because they not only they lose control of their database, but they're basically helping build a brand for the brokerage, not for themselves. So Would you agree with that? And it's a bit of a tricky situation. You got any insights about how any advice you could give to real estate agents around that, Tonya and Michael?
I'll tackle that one.
Okay.
You can add on,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, we hear that a lot of times. In fact, a lot of agents come to us and say, you know, I'm tired of promoting my own brokerage. I'm just building their brand and their brand. Now, on one hand, we are very brokerage friendly. We understand that obviously Michael owns a brokerage. He has agents underneath him. And so I know what that means to carry the risk, carry the load, and lead, and then have people underneath you that you want inside your culture, helping to support what you stand for and what you have built, right? And at the same time, the best brokers, the most creative and most successful brokers also look at, you know, their flock and notice that, okay, each one of those people is different and has their own strengths in their own right. And so if I'm going to succeed as a brokerage, I want each of my people to succeed in their own right and on their own strengths and merits, because that is the sum of the parts. Or how do you say that? Michael's best at this.
Well, it's the broker.
Yeah,
when you build a brokerage, like, you want the whole to be worth more than the sum of its parts,
That's what I was
because
trying to
every
say.
one of those are excelling at the highest rate possible for each one of those individuals. And we are very open about it. Like she said, we're obviously, being a fellow broker and being a fellow real estate professional, you know, I'm fine with the way the laws have set it up and the regulatory agencies have set that up, right? I'm fine with apprenticeships underneath brokers. That should be done. There's a lot of people get in real estate and they don't necessarily have all of it figured out yet, and they need somebody to sort of work with them. But we also at the same time encourage any agent, like, if you've got a broker that is not supporting you individually, you need to go to another brokerage. And I'll be very vocal about that, because the broker is there to help that person you know, grow themselves. Because what good is that brokerage if you have just a bunch of people that run around that don't know what they're doing, right? But unfortunately, we've lived in a world where that's not necessarily the overwhelming thought process, right? For years and years and years, it was, I'm the broker, you work for me, you got to do this, you got to do that. And over time, especially with the internet, we've seen that change, and we've seen that change. And regulatory agencies have even thought about, okay, what's the difference, right? In the state of Georgia, the only difference in a broker and a real estate agent is you got to know trust accounts, right? You got to go through what they want you to do, 3 years worth of work as a full-time agent, and you got to go through the course again, and you got to sit for your broker's test, and you got to learn some. And the only difference, though, between an agent test and curriculum and the broker is management and escrow accounts. That's the only difference, right? So I still think there's a world for both. I am still a broker, but I personally, I handpick agents that come to me. I don't take every agent that comes. We do take a certain amount of newbies every year, but we also merge that in, because I like the idea of a boutique brokerage where people can still get in touch with me. So I can be on a phone call with a sales call, you know, with a day's notice. I'm on the phone call if they need just a little bit more help to get that deal underneath their belt. And at the same time, all of our marketing not only has the brokerage brand, my facial recognition, my promise and mission statement to every one of our clients, even if I can't touch them, but we also do that in equal part with the agent they're actually going to work with. Because what good it is if they know my face and who I am and what I do, but then they're going to work with Tonya on the everyday part of it, and they don't really know who Tonya is. So it's definitely a partnership, and it hasn't always been seen that way. I think that's changed.
It's easy to marry those in personal branding, though. You can
Very
have
easy
a
to do.
very strong personal brand, stand on your own merits, and at the same time recognize and stay compliant with the broker.
And we've had very little, we've had very little kickback from brokers. Like, there have been a couple of instances, but for the most part, we haven't. They understand that person's promoting themselves, they're promoting that brokerage at the same time.
I thought that was a fantastic answer, and thank you for that. We're going to wrap up the show. Hopefully, Tonya and Michael can stay on for some bonus content, which you can see the whole interview plus the bonus content on the Mel Wright YouTube channel. Tonya and Michael, what's the best way for people to find out more about you and your great company?
BrandFaceRealEstate.com is the best way to learn more about us.
That's great. And Robert, how can people find new listeners and viewers, find out more about you and your company?
You can you can always email me at robert@inboundrem.com if you want to like get a personal response from me on something. But my website, inboundrem.com, is chock full of information on real estate, lead generation, how to use social media, how to use real estate platforms, like all of them, all the big ones. It's all there.
And if you want to find out more about Melrite and listen to our great interviews, over 200 of them with leading experts like Tonya and Michael, go to the Melrite website and there'll be full transcriptions of the interviews, links. It's a great resource. We'll see you next week, folks. Bye. Right, over to you, Robert.
So I loved your answer about the, I'm going to stick with the concept of personal branding versus brokerage branding. And I loved your answer, Michael. It was incredible. It was one of the best answers that I've heard a broker give anytime recently. I think that it's, from what I understand, and I just want to make sure before I ask this question that I really understood the details. You live in a small city, 10,000 people. That's where your real estate brokerage is as well, yes?
It is, yes.
Okay. So the amount of agents that you have in a 10,000 person city would be what, 10, 15 maybe?
No. The area that we cover in that, I've probably got 4.
Okay.
Yeah. Now we cover other areas. So my home base is in that small town because that's my, it wasn't the one I was born and raised in, but what happened to me personally was I was a broker and then I partnered during the mortgage debacle with a company out of California, and being an auctioneer, we ended up on the road for 6 years selling all the REOs off. Okay. And when I came back, I knew I needed to, I was still young and energetic, and I'm like, I need to reinvent something. And I had this brokerage forever, and I was in this little bitty small town of like 9,200 people at the time. We have 10 times more cows in the city than we have people, but it is a chartered city. So, you know, and I loved it. I mean, small town, great school, great people, fantastic place. And it was just a little north of where I had grew up. But see, I grew up in Gwinnett County, which was the fastest growing county, like 3 or 4 times in the 90s, per year. Like they made the list like 3 times, the fastest, right? And then they've made it 2 times since then. It's the second county in the state of Georgia that's going to cross 1 million people. Fulton County was the first. Gwinnett's fixing to do it. They're at like 979,000. We've got 6,000 to 8,000 people a month moving into the metro county areas, right? There's 13 of them now, and the county that I'm in will be the 14th when we cross over 115,000 people. So what I did was I took my small town brokerage right there, because I was going to just disappear, get me 5, 6, 7 agents, let it run, let it run itself, sort of a thing. And then I met Tonya, and
I ruined it all.
She ruined every bit of that for me. So I had to go to work, right? So we've got another office in Gwinnett, in Snellville, which is the 2nd largest city in Gwinnett. And then we've got agents out of there. And then when you go all around, Atlanta's got a circle, like they call it the 285 perimeter. And we're like on the northeast side of it. And I've got agents all the way from the I-20 crosses the circle, right? And I've got agents from this side of I-20 all the way over to nearly 3/4 of the pie. And a lot of them work at a home base. Some of them work out of my office, my main corporate office, and they maintain that city, that little tiny city, as much business as we can get. And then the rest of them are spread out in other sections of town.
So how many agents in total in your 3/4 pie around the 285 do you actually have?
16.
16. All right. So I have a question. I'm going to ask you both to give some advice coming from a different persona than either one of you are, because I'm in a major metro market. I'm in Los Angeles, and every year I attend something called the Keller Williams Reunion, because I have some clients and friends that work for Keller Williams. And this convention, this show, attracts 50,000 people. I'm not kidding. It's insane how many people are actually physically showing up for what is essentially an internal company trade show. So when you have that many people in a major metro market, getting that partnership going with a broker, I think, is a little more complicated. And so the advice that I'd ask for the two of you to give to our listeners is as follows. I'd be curious to know what you'd say if you could put yourself in the mindset that you're an agent inside a major city and a brokerage that has hundreds of agents. The broker is probably a name on the door. You
Right.
may never have even met this person,
Right.
let alone had a chance to partner with them in the way that you're talking about. I'm not saying that a brokerage can't provide tools to partner at all. I'm just curious to know what advice you would give those kinds of agents in terms of being a partner. Like, what are the things that you look for to say, I am partnered with correctly as an agent, and this company is properly supporting me so that I can then feel comfortable combining my brand with theirs?
Wow, that's a super broad question.
Yeah.
That's tough. Because it's personality based is what I find. Like I said, I probably interview 2 people a week to bring onto our team, and I don't take them. Like I take 1 every quarter, right? So it's like, it's not that I don't think that the people can do the job. It's the fact that personally, I don't know that I can provide what they need to be successful at it. It doesn't do me any good to just take on agents, right? Now, bigger brokerages think different. They, Keller Williams, obviously dominant, super dominant, right? But it's a numbers game. It's like, okay, let's get rid of the split. Let's get rid of the building the brokerage on the back of the agent. And then let's part it out, piece it out. Let's price everything to where they're paying for every sheet of paper. They're paying for this. They're actually paying for the services they want. And then they can pick and choose those services that they think that they need, right? Sure. But where's the emotional support to that? And real estate, especially if you're brand new, it wouldn't be no surprise to you guys. It might be a surprise to a lot of your listeners of how many people think real estate is this. And then they get into real estate and it's something completely different, right? So the best way I can answer your question is there are people that can excel in a brokerage where they don't need that. They don't need a broker to show them. They don't want to follow somebody around. They've got their schooling. They want to hack it out, right? Go find the brokerage that's going to provide that for you. Maybe they have seed money. Maybe they know that, okay, I need to look at this as a business and I need to set aside 20 grand this year that's going to pay for my rent on my office, pay for my extra help, pay for this, and, and work inside of like a Keller Williams situation. But then you have other people that come to you and they're like, I don't have any seed money, right? I just want you to put me on the appointments and then let the appointments, make me lots of money, right? Bring me the good leads and will you bring me on? And those of us in the business know that's not the case. That's not the case. So there's a lot of times in my personal situation that I'll say, look, I would, because I had this happen to me and this is the way I knew to do it. I'll say, look, we're not the brokerage to do this for you. Like I can't provide you what it is that you need to get your kickstart. So go get your kickstart over here, here, here. I know these people, they're good brokerages. Sometimes they'll share that with you. I'm interviewed with you. I've interviewed with this people. I've interviewed. I try to do that because I don't want to bring the person on, spend $1,500, $2,000 of the brokerage's money, only see them fail because they didn't skyrocket with 3 leads right off the bat the first week. Keep energized. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So personality driven brokerages can provide you different things. They really can.
I love your answer. You're right. It was a super broad, super kind of.
It's like one of mine, Robert.
What?
It was like one of my questions.
I know.
I must be rubbing off, Robert. My influence is seeping in, Robert. I just want to finish off the interview and hopefully you come back to the show in the new year because I've really enjoyed the interview. What are some of the, when people come to you, are there any patterns, anything you've observed over the past few years that agents, because I think in their heart, any of them that really want success do realize they need to build a brand. But are there any kind of regular things you see on a regular basis that agents are doing wrong when it comes to branding and building a local brand?
Yeah. How much time do you have?
just give us a couple. Give us a couple.
I'm kidding. Yeah. So there's two big things. First of all, a lot of them feel like, well, I'm already branded, right? And we do this presentation called the 5 biggest myths and debunking the 5 biggest branding myths. Well, one of them is I'm already branded. And in the old school terms, perhaps they would be correct. They think maybe they're branded because they've got their picture on everything. They've got their own logo and they've got their brand colors and they're using those consistently, right? But what they don't really understand in today's world, we look at branding a little bit differently. We look at personal branding as the art of differentiation. And so you can have your picture and your colors and your logo on everything and be consistent about what that looks like. But unless you set yourself apart and differentiate yourself, that to us is not really branding. And we call it the BrandFace way: define, develop, and display the BrandFace way. So we look at that very differently. So number one, that's one thing. The one of the big things that Michael always says, and I know he knows what I'm going to say, is consistency. Yeah. That even if they have this awesome message and they've set themselves apart and they know exactly who they're talking to in their marketing, they find it very difficult to be consistent in a couple of different ways. Number one, to make everything look consistent and feel consistent across the board. They see the same message everywhere they go. They hear the same thing. But the other thing is doing it over and over and over. You can't just build this beautiful brand, put it only on what we call your everyday marketing platforms, websites, social media, and collateral materials, and just sit there and build it and they will come, right? It does not work that way. You have to consistently get your brand out there to the world and let people know not just that you're a real estate agent, because great branding is not about being known for your profession. It's about being known for being different in your profession. So get that out consistent. So those, I think, are the biggest ones.
I think that was a great answer.
John, before we wrap up, I just want to say, Tonya, Michael, we have a weird milestone. At least on my page, we've just hit the largest live audience we've ever had, which is only 6 people, but still, our audience tends to
awesome.
Download the podcast. So hit a record. Thank you.
All right.
We're glad to be a part of it. We're glad to be a part of it.
Absolutely.
All right, John, you can do your thing. We can wrap up.
All right, Rob. Thank you, Robert. And thanks, Tonya and Michael. Thanks for coming on the show. And we wrap up this bonus part of the content. We'll see you next week when hopefully we have such fabulous guests as Tonya and Michael. And we'll be able to share some knowledge to help you get the success, not only for yourself, but for your own family in 2019 and 2020. We'll see you next week, folks. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.